The Economic Community of West African State has confirmed the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali and the Republic of Niger from the regional bloc, effective Wednesday, January 29, 2025. At a press briefing in Abuja, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Ali Omar Toure, said despite their exit, citizens of the three nations will retain certain privileges. Kelvin Ehunwahe reports.
The 2024 summit of the Authority of Heads of States and Government of ECOWAS to take effect from January 29, 2025. So, at the moment, the hitherto 15-member regional bloc is now a body of 12 members. Despite the depletion in its numerical strength, ECOWAS says it remains focused on its objectives and that citizens of the three affected countries will continue to enjoy privileges accruing to all ECOWAS citizens until engagements with their countries are concluded, but with a time frame yet to be decided.
Question of withdrawal is a sovereign decision. It's a sovereign decision, but ECOWAS has shown the whole world and the community in particular the value of being a member of ECOWAS. This is the region, the only region on the continent where with a simple ID card you can move from one end to another end. I'm not saying there are no problems, but legally you can move from one end to another end. You can pick up your passport, hop on a plane, and go anywhere else without having to go through all these visa problems. This is also a region where member states can trade freely among themselves for produce that are qualified under ECOWAS's trade liberalization scheme. So this is what we must build on for the benefit of our community. And I believe nobody should have problem with this.
Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali indicated their intention to leave the ECOWAS bloc in January 2024. Series of engagements to persuade them to change their stance were unsuccessful. They have since formed a coalition of alliance of Sahel states. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwahe, NTA News.
Burkina Faso and Niger, which are set to formally exit the Economic Community of West African State, at a meeting, foreign ministers from the three countries which have formed the Alliance of Sahel States reached a consensus on how to approach future negotiations with ECOWAS.
A meeting in Burkina Faso's capital to specify the modalities of departure from the Economic Community of West African States. The foreign ministers of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso resolved to conduct future negotiations with ECOWAS as a bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES.
We must understand that from now on, discussions within our space must take into account the existence of the AES as a united actor in order to be able to have discussions with ECOWAS in a spirit of peaceful coexistence, of responsibility and in the concern to preserve the interests of the populations.
Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso will officially exit ECOWAS on January 29th, 1 year after announcing their intentions to leave. The three nations recently announced they will remain visa-free for all ECOWAS citizens, alleviating concerns over free trade and movement for millions across the region.
All the necessary steps have been taken to ensure that things run smoothly. We'll make sure that this exit goes smoothly and that we can manage the consequences as best as we can.
Following a series of coups in recent years that brought military leaders to power in Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, the countries have moved away from traditional allies in the region, as well as former colonial ruler France.
Lastly, the AES is ready to go beyond ECOWAS to cooperate with all peace-loving and prosperous countries in the world. This must be done while respecting our sovereignty and the dignity of our people.
The meeting follows multiple efforts by ECOWAS to woo the three breakaway nations. This includes a 6-month grace period following their exit. However, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger reaffirmed that a return is out of the question.
Well, there are reactions as the military-led countries of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso officially left the ECOWAS bloc after more than a year of diplomatic tensions. Now, the former 15-member bloc has now been depleted, with observers expressing mixed feelings over its future. Kelvin Ahunwahi reports.
The draw of the three Sahel states has shaken the economic community of West African states that many consider to be the continent's most important regional group, and which will mark its 50th anniversary this year. The rupture was sparked by the July 2023 coup in Niger, after military leaders in Burkina Faso and Mali had also seized power since 2020. ECOWAS threatened military intervention in Niger to reinstate the deposed president and impose heavy economic sanctions on the army, which have now been lifted. The three countries who were founding members of ECOWAS announced in July 2024 the plan to withdraw immediately, but the rules of the organization required 1 year's notice for it to take effect. Military leaders in the Sahel states accused ECOWAS of failing to help them fight jihadist uprising in their countries and of being too close to France, the former colonial power in the region.
Because this is a diplomatic challenge, and I believe that it will take a lot of diplomatic challenge to address this. ECOWAS have said that they are providing for another 6 months of negotiation. So we hope that within this region, every entreaty, including what the ECOWAS have done now to still allow for movement of services, to still allow migration, to still allow economic activity and provide security support. We hope that these steps that has been taken by ECOWAS will get these three countries to reconsider their position, even though they are saying that their position is irreversible. But I believe that they should actually take time to consider the larger effects of this decision. How will the residents, or how will citizens of these three countries, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, how will they be coming or be visiting their neighboring countries within ECOWAS? What is the mode of engagement? How do we politically relate? How do we economically relate? What about trade? Remember that these countries are actually landlocked. So for them to have any importation, they have to do that, within some of the countries that have water bodies on them. So there are larger, implications to this, and I believe that ECOWAS should continue to provide them the support and then continue to monitor the situation, but most importantly, engage diplomatically, and we'll see where we get, from here.
United in isolation, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have now formed their own confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States. But ECOWAS has called on member countries to recognize until further notice the passports from the three countries that bear the ECOWAS logo. This move itself, diplomatic as it may be, observers say has an angle of implications.
Once you cease to be a member, those privileges should have also stopped, because it will send a wrong signal to other members. Because where I say, living ECOWAS does not mean that I will not enjoy those privileges. And it could also lead to an abuse of authorities, abuse of powers, and abuse of those privileges. So to me, I would have asked ECOWAS to be more, robust in their daily, rather than using the approach of give and take. You allow you to go, but nevertheless, you are still part of us. So it can send a wrong signal within the member states. You understand the point that they are also coming from, because the more, the strength. So the number of ECOWAS being the 15 members is actually their strength that make them to also, stood out among every other regional bloc within the African Union. But the truth be told, that once we are not there, they are not there.
In a sign of doubts within the ECOWAS bloc, Togo and Ghana have normalized relations with the three states, and Ghana's new president, John Mahama, has named a special envoy to the alliance of Sahel states. In Abuja, Kelvin Ahunwahi, NTA News.
All right, to speak further on the exit of the three countries from ECOWAS is a former diplomat, ECOWAS Commission, Ambassador Haruna Warkani. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you for having me.
All right, the tension has been doused. We've seen the exit, but what would you say is the implication of this exit?
Well, it's a very unfortunate scenario panning out, because this is the second time ECOWAS is being affected by such a departure. This perhaps being the most devastating. First was Mauritania in the year 2000 that voluntarily said they were leaving ECOWAS for obvious reasons of nationalism and sovereignty. Today we have the three states that have formed a confederation of Sahel states and have pulled out effectively. Now, having issued passports of their own design and have indicated also currencies that they intend to launch, and have taken some other diplomatic and administrative steps, including political steps, to sever their relationship with ECOWAS. This has become one of the greatest challenges this organization is facing. And it has very deep
ratified at the December 15, 2024 summit.
Go ahead, sir.
It has very deep implications for the sub-region, because the protocols that came into being, namely protocol on free movement, right of residence, and then movement of goods and services and capital, is now thwarted. Makes it difficult for citizens to travel, though with the concessions being granted on both sides, that citizens of ECOWAS can still use their passports and cross the borders of these Sahel states. It means there will be some implications with time. And then security-wise, you know, one of the reasons why the Sahel state decided to pull out was the apparent neglect of ECOWAS from assisting them to find the jihadists. And yes, ECOWAS managed to bring United Nations to keep peace in the region, but unfortunately, those efforts were not effective enough to make a difference. And so people have misgivings about what has been going on. Now, you see, they were asking the question, for instance, if ECOWAS could easily form a strong standby force to enforce a return to democracy in these countries at very short notice, how come ECOWAS was unable to form such a force to challenge the jihadis all these years past? I think that has been one of the greatest challenges they have thrown up to ECOWAS, which truly you will find it very, very difficult to analyze.
Okay, Ambassador, let me just come in there. You've already talked about how their national passport and identity cards bearing the ECOWAS logo, will be allowed. But how would this foster migration and interaction among the people? You talked about fostering peace and unity among the region, but you also mentioned implication.
Yeah, well, whether we like it or not, even when the ECOWAS passport was fully functional and across 15 member countries, you still had difficulties at the borders. Our officers in uniform have always made it very difficult for passengers, citizens traveling across the sub-region. We have, in ECOWAS itself, you receive complaints almost on daily basis of harassment and extortion and what have you. So it might not change much, but it could add some additional cost or layer of difficulty for citizens, particularly from the non-EAS countries coming in or going out, and vice versa. So there are implications for all that is going on. You know, the countries in the sub-region have a symbiotic relationship. Minus the imposition of colonial boundaries on Africa, most of us are actually the same people. There is no difference between a typical Nigerian in the north and a Nigerian up there in Niger. Similarly, at the Shaki border in Nigeria around Ibadan, and somebody living across the border in Benin Republic, there's no difference. So, minus colonial interventions, we were one people. And therefore, even this development still underlies the fact that we remain one, because we cannot move away from this location, we cannot move away from this jurisdiction, no matter what the boundaries are. They are not physical enough to prevent us from moving around. So,
just like Ambassador, it can stop trade. We're seeing the leniency also in the aspect of trade that will be in accordance with the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. But what would you say will be the import of this on the region?
Well, I can assure you trade will continue as usual. all these efforts are going to come to really nothing much until maybe after some years from now, because even in the experience of Mauritania, when Mauritania left in a hurry, some years later, Mauritania suddenly discovered that they were not able to sell fish to Nigeria because they exited the ETLS. And so it became a problem. Mauritania had to even look for another third country to be able to bring fish into Nigeria in particular because of the huge size of the market. This is what is going to happen. The AES are going to realize that they still need Nigeria, for instance, for this trade to continue. And Nigeria also needs them because Niger, for instance, has been serving as a buffer for security against the jihadis coming in from Libya, Algeria, Iraq, and the rest of them. So both sides have benefits and both sides have commitment that we need to look at. And then, just like the president of the commission has said, you know, the departure is not going to be easy because there are plenty of things that need to be negotiated. There are plenty of staff of the commission, for instance, that are scattered in these countries with agencies that ECOWAS has established, functioning, buildings, etc., etc. All this will require very complex negotiation that will take time to work out.
And talking about negotiations, of course, you're aware that the ECOWAS Commission has set up a structure to facilitate discussions regarding this issue. But what would you say will be the expectation from this engagement?
Well, it's a very good question. And from the experience of even Mauritania, let me go back because this is something very similar. It will take some years to negotiate because ECOWAS, for instance, financed the establishment of headquarters of agencies in these member countries. If I take one example, the headquarters of the West African Health Organization, WHO, AO, is in Burkina Faso, in the second largest town of Bobo-Dioulasso. Now, the structures there required ECOWAS to have committed so much money to build. The sports center in Niger, the small arms control center in Mali, so many of them scattered across the sub-region. All these are investments that ECOWAS has done. Programs that were financed from loans and grants that ECOWAS managed to get from other international organizations have been sunk in these member countries. Now, since they pull out, it means there will be need for serious negotiations and it will take a long time.
All right, Ambassador Haruna Warkani, thank you so much for your time on the news. We do hope that peace is sustained within the region. All right.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, let's take a break. We're back. Stay tuned.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their socio-economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, one person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, one person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Thank you for staying tuned. A pre-dawn stampede at the world's largest religious gathering killed at least 30 persons in India this Wednesday. Many more we hear were injured after a surging crowd spilled out of a police cordon and trampled on bystanders. Framapai has more for us.
Deadly crowd incidents are a frequent occurrence at Indian religious festivals, including Kumbh Mela, which attracts tens of millions of devotees every 12 years to the northern city of Prayagraj. As pilgrims rushed to participate in a sacred day of ritual bathing, people sleeping and sitting on the ground near the rivers were trampled by a huge number of devotees coming towards them in the dark. Rescue team carrying victims from the accident site weaved through piles of clothes, shoes, and other discarded belongings. Police carried out stretches bearing the bodies of victims draped with thick blankets. 30 devotees have unfortunately died, Senior Police Vaibhav Krishna told reporters during an evening news conference at the festival. The 90 injured were taken to the hospital. Krishna's briefing came nearly 18 hours after the stampede and was the first official death toll given by authorities. Festivities had otherwise been allowed to continue almost as normal during the day, with millions still trekking to the riverbanks to immerse themselves in the water. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the stampede extremely sad and offered his deepest condolences to relatives of those killed. "I wish for speedy recovery of all injured," he added. Dozens of relatives were anxiously waiting for news outside a large tent serving as a purpose-built hospital for the festival near the disaster site. The 6-week Kumbh Mela is the single biggest milestone on the Hindu religious calendar. Wednesday marks one of the holiest days in the festival when saffron-clad holy men lead millions in a sin-cleansing ritual of bathing at the confluence of the Ganges and the Yamuna rivers in tandem with a planetary alignment in the solar system. More than 400 people died after they were trampled or drowned at the Kumbh Mela on a single day of the festival in 1954, on the largest tolls in the crowd-related disaster globally. Another 36 people were crushed to death in 2013, the last time the festival was held in Prayagraj. Frama Pani, NTA News.
In other news, rebuilding the Lake Chad Basin to ensure peace and promote development for a resilient community was the focus of the 5th Lake Chad Governors Forum meeting hosted in Maiduguri by the Yobe State Government. President Bola Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, at the event called for a collective approach towards addressing challenges facing the region. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
The meeting brought together 8 governors from Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and the Republic of Niger, as well as humanitarian organizations and local and international communities, to address pressing security challenges and explore solutions for stability in the Lake Chad region. President Tinubu noted that while military power is necessary to contain these security threats, it must be accompanied by strategies that address their root causes, including poverty, inequality, and lack of job opportunities for the region's young population.
Let us as a region collectively fuse into one to face our common enemy. Our common enemies are poverty, institution, and lack of opportunities. Once we engage youth, Once we create opportunities, this madness of Boko Haram, of ISWAP, will evaporate.
This forum remains a beacon of hope, serving as the cornerstone for strengthening and promoting good governance, cross-border cooperation, dialogue, and coordinated action among the basin 8 territories.
Since the establishment of this forum, Borno State has remained steadfast and committed to its realization of its vision and mission. In our efforts to rebuild the state and restore the social contract between government and communities, we have made significant strides in providing essential infrastructure, enhancing security, and creating livelihood opportunities for our people.
The cheering news is that the world recognizes this global characterization and do understand that there will not be global peace without the right answers to the question of the lectured basin.
I want to also repeat that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies are here all the way to ensure that the entire region is fully back to its course. I'm very happy and glad to hear that the governor of DeFi is here. I want to assure him, all members, that we are one family. There is no dispute between us that cannot be solved.
At its core, the Governors Forum is a testament to the belief that the challenges we are facing transcend borders and require collective solutions. Boko Haram insurgency has demonstrated that instability in one corner of our region reverberates across the entire basin.
Chain of events have disrupted the stability of the region in the past 15 years and demand that power must be wielded responsibly to guarantee the safety and prosperity of the people. From Maiduguri, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
And that concludes the news. Thanks for watching. I'm Ruth Aguere. Bye.